Hi, everybody. This is Melanie Headley. You are listening to ToRAISE Questions Doula podcast. I'm here with Thérèse Hakoun, the Executive Director of ToLabor, which is an international training and certifying doula organization.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Thérèse.
How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Me too. This is
Let's just stop it right there.
That's it. It's a good day. Here we are recording. Glad to be back.
It's finally not raining today.
Yes. So first thing I want to say is we are sponsored by latchmama.com. So please, you've heard us say it before, but please check out their website, latchmama.com, and their Facebook page. Please pass on this awesome, wonderful company to your clients, to your friends who are pregnant now, who are breastfeeding, because it is a great company. They've just gotten a whole bunch of new inventory and new fashions. You've heard us.
I just had a client wear a latched mama dress in labor.
Yeah. That's good.
And it was so soft.
Yeah.
Well, I was rubbing her back.
The sleeveless ones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's almost like a nightgown.
Yeah.
And then they can breastfeed easily afterwards in it too.
Yep.
Lovely. So check them out. We're so grateful to Melissa and the crew for sponsoring us. And I also just wanted to mention we have the perinatal loss and traumatic grief workshop coming up here in Richmond, November 11th and 12th. We'd love to have you attend. Please check out the website for more information about this. It's not just for birth doulas, it's for everyone. We actually will have continuing education credits for social workers that we are pending right now, but we should have them with no problem. If you are from outside the area and are traveling to Richmond to do the workshop, please let us know if you need accommodations. There's certainly plenty of accommodations here, but if you need any insights into that, and we may have some homestays by some lovely volunteers here in the community who are willing to house some people for the training as well if money is an issue as far as the travel and accommodation. So please contact us at for that at ToLabor.com. And we have just put on the schedule a workshop for January 13th and 15th, 2017 in Richmond for the birth doula training. It's a great workshop. So if you're in the area or again can travel, please consider coming, sign up soon to get the discount. And that's the first of our...
And this is typically a big one, so sign up soon.
That's it. It always fills up, and we always have a wait list. So let people know about that one. It's just the beginning. I mean, that's the one that we definitely have on the schedule for 2017. The rest of the calendar looks really blank, but please don't fret. We are having plenty of workshops in 2017. We're just in the process of formulating everything before we put it up there, so it's coming. So and if you
want to bring us to your town,
please
get in touch.
Contact tolaborworkshops@gmail.com. So today we are going to have a guest.
Yes, we're going to be talking to Lisa Chin from Boston.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to hear her story. She sent us a really interesting email, and I think this ties in really well to our last podcast that we did about birth shame.
Right. And with everything, the discussion is about postpartum period again, and the importance and Lisa's experience and how she has also what she's doing with her experience to help other people. So we really look forward to talking to her.
So stay tuned. So here we are talking to Lisa Chin from Boston. Lisa, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thanks for reaching out to us. And we're so excited to chat with you today.
Yes, yes.
Oh, Well, thank you so much for having me on. I just love the messages that you share through your podcast, and I'm so happy that I can share a little bit of my story with your audience and with you.
Well, great. And that said, that's what we'd like to start with, is you telling us how you came to a place of wanting to really be involved, because my understanding is you're not a birth doula, you're not a childbirth educator. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what is it about the pregnancy year, specifically the postpartum period, the fourth trimester, as you so aptly call it, drew you into, what made you think that was an important part and what you want to do in the future?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and there's no short answer to it.
Well,
so
go ahead.
Keep it. So I have always been kind of, I guess, interested in the whole birth thing. I grew up as one of the younger members of my extended family, so I never really witnessed diapers or babies or anything, but I remember always having some sort of connection to it. And when I went to business school, and when I graduated, I was working for a consulting firm, and at that point, my cousin had her first child, and it was right around Thanksgiving, and I made my food, and I was upset that she missed out on the holiday, and she was in the hospital. So I packed it all up for her when she got home and brought it over to her, and I had this idea for a catering service for new moms, and that's really where it all started for me. Was that business idea got me into holistic health and wellness, which led me down the deep, not really dark path, but the deep path of self-development.
Yeah, deep paths don't always have to be dark.
No,
but I know.
And very light,
yeah,
very light path, and bright path of self-development. And so I became certified in holistic health coaching and really wanted to actually coach women who were trying to get pregnant, because I knew the importance of nutrition and how that would feed into the body.
Yes.
But I never felt qualified enough to, because I had never been pregnant, and I didn't even really know anyone who had been pregnant at that point. So I really squashed that idea. And then fast forward 2 years ago, I had my daughter, and literally I'm a completely different person.
Can I ask you real quickly before you go into that, because I'm sure, yes, it is transformable, that whole experience. But your cousin who you took the food to, and you thought you were going to start a postpartum catering service, did you actually do that?
No. So I tend to have a lot of ideas.
Yes.
And I have tended to follow what calls to me. So I went into I received my certification in health coaching, and while I was doing that, my intention was to start this business. And then as I got more into the work that was involved in doing it, and how much more there was to learn about it, I still didn't feel like I would do good enough of the job.
Got it. But yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. So, and then fast forward, last year and a half ago, one of my friends messaged me, and she sent me a link to Mother Bees out in California, and the way that the company started was Han Oh, the founder, she was delivering and creating meals for new moms, but using kind of Chinese medicine as the foundation for it. And I was like, I didn't need to do it because someone else had already done it. So
well, because
better than I would have.
Well, and I think it's just one of the best ideas that I'm not sure. I think there are other people also who have pursued this on a smaller scale, just in their communities or whatever. But it is something I just want to put out there to our listeners, that this is an excellent way to do birth work if you're not, ready or wanting, or there's not a desire to do actual birth work, is helping to nourish people after their birth experiences. But I know we'll talk more about that. But I was just curious if you had done it. But you went into the holistic health coach field, and and then I had your own baby.
Yes. So 6 years down the line, I had my daughter, and it was really transformative. Actually, before I continue, anyone who wants to pursue that idea, just like contact me and we can brainstorm, because I still love the idea and I think there's a lot of validity to it. And
I think it's a great idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
well, that is very generous of you. Yeah, that's very generous. I think that is something that you may find that people take you up on your offer. So
awesome.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Great.
So having my daughter, it was truly transformative. I went into the whole experience very intentional and empowered. And, I want to say 99% of my experience was that. I'm going to interrupt you again. What
your statement is what got me just now. You went into it very empowered and I think you said inspired, or you went intentional. That's what it was. Why do you think you went in that way if, like you said, you were not exposed to babies in your life? I mean, what was it? Is that just who you are, Lisa, or was that part of this whole process of learning about health and nutrition and so forth?
Oh, such a good question, and a story I haven't widely shared, but it's part of who I am. And during that health coach certification program, one of the last classes, I was working with a partner, and the instructor said, talk to your partner about what your mother's pregnancy with you was like. And he explained that experience in the womb can leave an imprint on us. And I 100% agree. And that let's talk about it and see, learn a little bit more about ourselves. So I was talking to my partner at that point, and she was, she asked me, what do you know? And I said, I don't really know much, but I do know, so this is what I do know. My brother was born in China. My mom worked, basically on a farm. His disposition is very different than mine, because when I was born, she lived in the States in New Jersey and worked in a factory. And so I'm much more methodical and I'm always on the go, and my brother is just a little more relaxed than I am. And then I said, and one story I do know about my mom's pregnancy with me is that she kept me a secret for about 6 months because my brother is hard of hearing, and actually they didn't know what was really wrong with him. They just knew he wasn't developing as quickly. And so my grandmother wasn't fond of the idea of my mom keeping me. And so my mom she was like, I was on the floor of the kitchen, scrubbing the floor and crying in the bucket, or, just this reaction, it just drew me to the story. And I just imagined her in that moment being like, I'm going to prove you wrong. This child of mine is going to do something. Wow. And I think that's where I find my sense of purpose and my connection with that time period from.
That is really beautiful. That is really beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing that story with all of us, Lisa. That's really, it's very intimate. So thank you. I felt like I was there with your mom in both those pregnancies, and feeling some of the feelings she must have to hold in the secret and crying as she scrubbed the kitchen floor, and how that transferred perhaps to you.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea of really making sure that you have that conversation with your parents, of figuring out what their life was like while they were growing you. I think that's so important. We talk about the birth, but during the pregnancy is really important.
It's so important. And there's obviously a lot of esoteric schools of thought in that, but it's undeniable. I mean, even one of my friends, she cannot stand this bakery in near our hometown, and every time her mom was pregnant with her mom would not be able to go in. She would always have one of her other daughters get coffee from inside because she couldn't walk inside, or else she would get nauseous. And then after she gave birth, she was totally fine. And then my my friend said she like cannot stand the smell of it, and then her mom looks at her like, "You're the reason why I couldn't stand that pastry."
That's so funny.
That is cute.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, understanding the stories of where we come from is not just like where our ancestors came from, but like that time in the womb when we're so impressionable. And, you know, I feel, you know, to get a little out there, like I feel like it's a little bit of, you know, we are meeting our moms where they are.
Yes.
So, you know, she was in a certain place, I was in a certain place, we came together and created the lives that we have. But I do think that it's really powerful, and it's really cool once you just start talking to people about it. Like, I'll ask my friends, like, "Oh, what was your mom's pregnancy with you like?" Just out of, you know, out of curiosity, because it feeds into understanding that other person so much more.
I think there is a lot to be, and there have been things written about this, and there, you know, I think what's hard for some people, myself sometimes included, to be transparent here, you know, if you've had a very stressful pregnancy, you've not had the idyllic, you know, very, idyllic kind of experience, it can feel potentially guilt-inducing, like, you know, that, oh my God, I caused this in my child, which I think parents have to struggle with anyway. And then that concern of, oh my God, every thought I have during the pregnancy, every action I make will be an direct impact on my child. And I love this. I agree with you on what you are saying. And yet, I guess the only yet is how we frame it with other people, so nobody feels like, oh God, I really screwed up. You know,
right.
You know, is the other aspect, because we do come in as, I feel like my children came in also as to who they are and who they were going to be, and I was a pathway for them. I am a pathway with them. So it's both, but I think it's a very, we know that genetics plays a part. I can imagine, therefore, emotional, spiritual, the physical realm plays a part as well.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you, because I know that mommy guilt and parent guilt and shame and blame are all like part of how we're marketed to, really.
Right.
So it's really important for parents to feel that they were as empowered and as intentional as they could be, but not to put that pressure on themselves, because it is a matter of that, you know, it kind of is what it is. But I also think that sharing that information is not meant to place the blame, but like if we don't share that information, people don't know it, and the people who are going to give birth are deprived of that information. So it's a really, really weird balance. I
agree. I think
that,
I agree with what you are saying. It's like, if it can be addressed and talked about in ways that doesn't shame somebody
in a positive manner.
Yeah, and I think, you know, really we should ideally have thought before we ever get pregnant, not just let pregnancy happen. So that intentional conscious thought is that we try and do the best that we can during that period of time. Or once we know we're pregnant, try and, you know, do the best that we can. And, you know, for me, I guess what it always came back down to, life was a mess I think most of my pregnancies. But what was consistent and was never without a doubt was I loved this baby that was growing inside of me. And I think that goes a long way. And even for those who have a hard time accepting their pregnancies at the beginning, there's still this care of that child on a subconscious level, if it's not on a conscious level at that time. So I think that's the salve we have to remind people is always present.
Yeah, and I also want to add that it's not, I mean, the impact sometimes is not permanent. So we'll talk about it later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm running the summit, and I interviewed this doctor out in California called his name is Dr. Tony Madrid, and he's a psychologist, and he basically figured out that pediatric asthma is linked to the disruption in maternal and infant bonds while in utero or at birth. And that if you can resolve that disruption in bonds, so like retroactively go back and kind of resolve it through hypnotherapy or some other techniques, then you can actually heal this child of asthma.
That's
wow.
It's
we'll have
crazy.
Well, as one of the resources you can give us, so our listeners, after this podcast, you'll be able to go on the website and find some resources and notes of things that Lisa and we are talking about. And so that'll be one of the ones we'll just ask you for is his, his contact kind of information or his site or whatever. So that sounds very interesting. So go ahead and tell us. So you went into birth, as you said, empowered and intentional 2 years ago.
And what are some ways that you prepared for your birth to feel that empowerment?
So I, with my background and my education in health coaching, which included nutrition, and then just personal research and philosophies I had in that area, I cleansed quite a bit beforehand. I went off birth control a bit before, like a year before. What else did I do? I cleansed. I did a couple of different cleanses. I saw, different healers. There was one other thing that I'm failing to remember. Oh, I stopped alcohol for 6 months before, something like that. So I just basically was trying to prep the body as much as possible.
That's excellent.
And because it's kind of like growing organic vegetables. You can't grow organic vegetables in dirt you get off of the side of the road because you don't know what's been in there. And so I tried to do as much as I could. And then with the birth itself, or with the pregnancy itself, I charted. So there's this book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, which I think is a must read for any woman or person, really.
Right. We just talked about that at a workshop this weekend, how it's just one of those it's just an empowering, powerful book.
Yes. Phenomenal. And I don't know why I found out about it when I was, 20 something and not when I was 8.
Right. That's what we talked about. It's something that young girls should know about their bodies and boys as well about the fertility cycles. Yes. So that book. I learned so much.
So I read that book and then it kind of, other things around charting, just because we're planners. And so we're planning certain time frames and, we were very fortunate and it didn't take us very long at all. And then during the pregnancy itself, I, just tried to eat as clean as possible. And I was really tired. It wasn't really nauseous at all. I didn't have morning sickness, but I was just really tired the first trimester. So I rested. And then the pregnancy was how it was. As I was approaching birth, I was thinking I wanted a natural birth. I started doing some research as to what types of classes I should take, with hypnobirthing or with, the regular Lamaze or hospital classes. I should backtrack to when I was pregnant and my husband and I were chatting and talking and trying to figure out where we should have the birth. And I really wanted to have it at a birth center, and it was super crunchy granola, in a house in the Boston area. And he really wanted it in a hospital, just because it was our first baby and we really weren't sure what would happen during the process. And so I definitely made a conscious decision that, that's probably a good idea, and that I ended up at a hospital with midwives. And so I was with the midwifery program at the hospital. So saw them throughout the care, and then I, got chiropractic care and acupuncture and all of that.
Were you? I'm sorry. Did you have an outside job as well besides growing a baby?
Oh, yeah. So I was working at an architecture firm.
Okay. So you had a full-time job at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going. So you were doing complementary modalities as well for yourself during the pregnancy.
Yes. And one thing I did not do was meditate or do any sort of physical activity. And that's, if I were to redo my pregnancy again, I would do that. And I have, my daughter's just she's kind of off the wall. And I'm it's because I didn't meditate. So, I mean, there's that whole like blame and shame and all that, but I mean, it's like, I know why she's that way because I didn't do it, and I'll own up to that. So anyway, so as I was looking for birthing options, I came upon the Bradley method. And so it's a 12-week course, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I'll go all in and do 12 weeks. Like everything else is, 1 weekend, maybe 2 weekends if you were at a more comprehensive place. And so I signed up for a Bradley course, and the intention was the natural birth with the midwives at the hospital. And one of the most empowering things I learned with the Bradley course, I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, you have to find the right instructor, and I just had a really amazing instructor. It was that in one of the last classes, she said, here are the questions you need to advocate for yourself in times when, there may be practitioners or professionals who may be asking if you want interventions, and it's, is mom safe, is baby safe, and can this wait? And so that we really remembered that for whatever reason, and it really worked in our favor during the birth. And so because I charted, I knew exactly when 40 weeks was up. And when I went in for my first ultrasound, I think they were like, "Oh, you're actually this date," and I'm like, "No." I think they said, "You're the 10th," and I'm like, "No, I'm the 17th. Like, I know I'm the 17th. You don't have to. I'm not going to go by your schedule at all."
Did they acknowledge that, or did they just keep with the ultrasound date?
They kept the ultrasound date, but then they adjusted it to the 15th with a second ultrasound. And in my mind, I was like, I'm still due the 17th. So to me, it really wasn't, I wasn't going to be swayed at all with that. So if there was any issue with it later on, if I was like after that date,
right.
Then I would be like, this is what it is, and here's my chart, and here are all the temperatures, and I know exactly. So I knew going in, and so it was just like, it was kind of different, like going in and knowing more than the practitioners. It was kind of cool. And then with birth itself, I was 2 days later. Okay, so the funny thing is that I woke up on the morning of the 19th, and it was early morning wake up, and I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just meditate, because I haven't meditated all pregnancy, so let me meditate. And I meditated it was like 6:15, 6 o'clock, and literally at 6:20, 6:25, my water breaks.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. And so I labored at home. Contractions were kind of, infrequent and just kind of going with it. And then I took a nap, and I woke up with meconium in my underpants. Well, I thought it was me at first. I thought like, oh, maybe this is part of it. I don't know. So
right.
I kind of checked, and I wiped, and I realized it wasn't me, and it was coming from the baby. So I called the hospital, and they said, you have to come in. So I went in, and we packed everything up, and then they said, is your baby breached? And I said, no, I don't. I mean, you guys checked me. You guys said that she had a bony butt. I just went with it. They didn't do an ultrasound. They just kind of did the manual check. And I even think they went inside actually to kind of check, but I don't recall now that I think about it. But they did an ultrasound, and indeed she was breached, and she was butt down. So like literally she was pooping like out of my vagina.
Right, which is very, very common for breech presentations.
Yes. And so my husband and I looked at each other like, okay. So we asked what are the options, and I said, well, we can wait because maybe the baby will turn in the process, or we can go in for a C-section. And for me, it's like one of the biggest, and not the biggest, but like one of the core reasons I didn't want a natural birth was because of like the medication and like getting a big shot up my spine. Like just the idea of the needle like terrified me. So it is more, kind of the C-section was just something I really didn't want. And so I said, okay, well, can we just wait? Because,
right.
Am I safe? Is baby safe? Can we wait?
Mm-hmm.
And so we waited, and they said, well, we have to put her on constant fetal monitoring because of her state. And I was just thinking, oh man, like, the thing I learned in my class was like, the more they're monitoring, like the more they get really concerned if anything drops or whatever it may be. But they kind of were like, there's really no way of going about it. Like, if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to do something. But luckily they had like a wireless
the walking.
So, yeah, so I could walk around and be active and as much as I really wanted, and it was waterproof too, so I could be in the tub. So I labored. So I got to the hospital around 4:30 or so.
And how dilated were you at that point? Do you know?
Oh my gosh, I probably was like 2 centimeters.
Okay. So that's one. Okay, and the baby was sounding good during the whole time you were doing this, obviously.
Yes, heartbeat was really strong. And then we labored, and my contractions were inconsistent. And we just like hung out. We labored overnight. I did the tub. I did, I tried on the bath, on the toilet. I did just like
lots of different things. Yeah.
Yeah. We used clary sage essential oils to try to boost it, and that definitely was very helpful. And we had, I had my husband doing like acupressure points because I researched that, like to help manage the pain. And then it was like 9 a.m. the next morning, and I'm like 4 centimeters or 5 centimeters, something ridiculous after all that time. And so the nurse comes in and she says, well, it's been this long, baby's still looking good, but what are you thinking about how you want to proceed? And he and I just look at each other and, we asked those questions.
Right.
And it was definitely a very challenging time because we had been laboring for so long, but we were so intent on having that natural birth if we could, as long as, everything was healthy. So we said we were going to wait. And then we just did a bunch of, I don't know what else we did between 9 and noon. But between that point, I got to a point where I was able to, they were okay with my delivering.
Really? So they changed, so they went from, the baby might rotate, which is, I just have to say, slim to none going to happen in labor.
Yeah. Oh,
or do a cesarean.
No, I completely forgot a key point of this story. So as we're talking about, this is when I first got to the hospital, they were saying, well, you can do a cesarean or you can wait for the baby to rotate. And then I remembered in a conversation I had with a midwife that there is a doctor in the hospital who specializes in natural breech birth.
Okay.
So I remember that and stored it away. And then her name was brought up during my Bradley class as well, because I mentioned it and kind of like reinforced that. So then I asked, is she available? Can I talk to her? Is this a possibility? And so she came in and she kind of evaluated me and was like, you're, kind of like approved, I guess, of my doing it, which I didn't know. I didn't know how big a deal this was.
Right.
And so she just kind of was like, yeah, we can do this. And her daughter was graduating from college in 2 days. So I literally had, a finite amount of time with her attention. And so she was checking in with me because she had a couple other births as well during that time.
So from that conversation on, Lisa, were you just dealing with her? Were the midwives still in the picture, or were you just now dealing with that doctor?
Really good question. So the hospital I went to, it's Mount Auburn in Cambridge. We were amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they had, I always had a labor nurse in the room, and I think I always had a midwife in the room as well, or maybe almost always. So I always had those two. And then once Dr. Beth Hardiman, she came into the picture, I had 3 people to take care of me. And then, so because she wasn't there for the entire birth, like the midwife would be there to help support me, and the labor and delivery nurse would be there. And so I just felt like I had a lot of support in that time.
Yes. That's great.
Yeah. And so at noon, I was like maybe like 9 centimeters, 9.5, I think. They were kind of like, okay, well, I think we can kind of start the process. And so I pushed for about 4.5 hours.
Okay.
And I was able to deliver my daughter, but first, I say that she was born mooning the world.
Yes.
And
so was I. Yes.
Explains a lot.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Her heartbeat was good throughout?
Yeah, it was just like, it was just all kind of just worked. Like, it just, everything flowed. And by the time that I gave birth to her, it was literally half of the L&D floor was in my room, because they were like, oh, can this person come in and this person come in? And I just was at a point where, like, I don't really care. And, like, the more hands on deck, the better. So I think it had, like, 4 or 5 midwives in the room at that time, and then a bunch of different nurses. And then after the fact, I learned how different of an experience
yes, that's it.
Watching.
I mean, you gave a lot of people, this was not your obligation, but you gave a lot of people a gift of being able to see something that, one, is only about, they feel like only approximately 5% of babies will actually present in breech presentation at the time of a delivery. So that's, in it itself, a breech is not that common, obviously 5%. And then in this day and age, it is very uncommon in most communities that anybody will even do a vaginal, quote unquote, allow a person to deliver vaginally by breech, with a breech. And so for them to see it was really an opportunity that can also change people's perspectives of, like, okay, this can be done, and it can be handled well with right kind of care providers and the right skills behind it. So I think it's wonderful that you allowed that, whether it was because you could have cared less at that moment or it was a conscious decision. You gave an opportunity for a lot of people. And I have to say, the fact that you went, I can't help but think your whole pregnancy, your intention, your education, all of that you brought to the experience lined up beautifully to be able to have that vaginal breech delivery, including having that doctor available.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. I mean, just the universe put everything
in
line
place
for you. And how amazing. I mean, the classes, you first heard the doctor's name and then remembered that when you were there, and that she was there. I mean, all of these things.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yes. So, and you didn't, some people don't get that opportunity, and they then have the cesarean, and that's the right choice because that's the only safest choice for them at the time. You were given this opportunity to allow your baby to come the way your body was able to allow the baby to come. So incredible. Yeah. So after the baby was born, though, you really, part of what we were... what has moved you forward to an event that we want to talk about as well. You went into the postpartum period. So, and you have shared with us through, contacting us that your 4th trimester was so important to you, how it was handled. So can you just give us some overview of what made your 4th trimester powerful to you and healthy?
Sure. Okay, so I am Chinese. So my mom she was a farmer back in China, so she was born there, and so was my brother, and then I was born here in the States. And I recall, and I don't actually recall where I first heard about it, but there's this idea of sitting in or confinement in Chinese culture, and this type of practice is very common in a lot of traditional cultures where the mom is basically taken care of.
Right.
And she doesn't do much. So as I was doing my
That
research,
would not be the American culture.
That's the opposite.
No.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Maybe the Native American
yes,
culture.
but not ours.
Really modern.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. There's a lot yet to be said about that. So I did my research to, how can I set up a good postpartum, because I knew in Chinese culture that there are certain foods to eat, and that the mom didn't wash her hair for 30 days. That's the thing I remember the most. And I knew that I wanted my mom to be here to support me during that time, because I knew how important that healing during that time is to my long-term health. So the way that I announced my birth to my mom was so you're going to have to take the month of May off, is how I said it. And I was like, you're going to have to come up here and take care of me. And so I researched a ton of, what types of practices there are. And at the end of the day, I didn't really do as much. I didn't do as much as I wanted to, but I felt like it was still very much I was almost in control of of what was happening, as much as I could control for myself. So I gave birth a couple of days later. I came home from the hospital, and my mom came at that point. And from then on, I didn't have to do anything. I definitely didn't shower for those 30 days.
How did that feel to you, not to shower?
It was disgusting.
And so can you just tell us just briefly, if you know, what is the, because I've heard that in other cultures as well, what is the method of thought behind not showering?
Yeah, so as much as I can, with my level of expertise around it, and my reasoning, at least going into it, was that in Chinese medicine, there's this idea of hot and cold in our bodies, and that we're like constantly in this balancing, or this attempt to balance the hot and cold in our body. And hot and cold can be influenced by the foods we eat, or the environments that we're in, or even the stress that we put on our bodies. And so when we're pregnant, we're in this constant state of hot, because we're, literally creating life, and
that heat, that energy, right.
Yes, exactly. And then when we give birth, we basically have this empty spot in our body full of air, and our body turns into a colder state. And when we're in a colder state and we have this like big air pocket in our body, that air pocket can let in other things, and kind of like that can infiltrate our body and cause things like arthritis, or give us like a bad menopause, or just there's like the idea of wind entering in, and wind is like cold and kind of brittle, and or it can be dampening, and it can cause that in our bodies, and so longer term health impacts were something that I was thinking about as I was justifying not showering, and as I was telling my husband that I wasn't going to be showering for 30 days. And then, you're working throughout your postpartum period, at least those first 30 days, really, to really increase that heat in your body. So by showering, you would be introducing cold into your body because of the water. Okay. And even if you're taking a hot shower, you're still, in my opinion, kind of like stressing out the body a little bit, because then it has to regulate, and there's a lot of, I don't know, that's how I see it, but I'm not a Chinese medicine practitioner.
Well, and Lisa, is it like the hot cold, is that also kind of the same thing as yin and yang, as like in regarding to foods, where some foods can be more yin than yang?
Yeah, the Ayurvedic way of looking at things as well. And
so that's like contracting and expanding. So there's a little bit of that, but it's not necessarily hot and cold. It's like kind of a different take on it. So certain foods can be expansive.
Right. It's very Chinese medicine. I mean, I just know this from the years of doing acupuncture with my practitioners and how they explain things. So we'll have to look into more behind it, but thanks for at least giving somewhat of the explanation, because I think that you did a good job of what I understand it to be as well. And in Indian medicine, the Ayurvedic way of doing things, that's very similar as well, the hot and the cold.
And so what kind of foods were you eating, and were you avoiding at this time too?
Sure. So anything cold. So cold water, even room temperature water, I didn't have so much of. I was always having warm water or warm soup. I wasn't having raw fruit. I wasn't having any fruit at all, actually, but I wasn't having anything that was raw or cold, because that's more taxing on the digestive system.
Right.
So I was eating a lot of ginger, like a lot of ginger.
It's funny because
we bought.
Yes, it's so warming. And what I was going to, I'll just interject here for a second. I'm sorry.
No.
Many times, having been at a birth, somebody who's had a very long, arduous birth, or even a very fast birth, sometimes you can just see the energy in their body has just been, they get really, you can see this cold take over almost immediately. And there's a shaking, there's a change in the pallor of their skin, and it's not like from hemorrhaging or anything of that sort. So what we've done is make them a ginger tea with also ginseng in it and a few other things, but and make them drink it very hot, very, to get that inner heat going in their body and help the system get that heat generating again. So ginger, I just know, is a very hot food without it being
interesting.
Yeah. Yes. So a lot of ginger. And then
a lot of ginger.
And then were you just your mom and your husband, I guess, for as long as he was around and when he was around, were just letting you lie in with the baby and you were just taking care of the baby?
Mm-hmm. And, I probably did. I mean, my mother was happy to change the diaper and do everything, but I did do some of those things. And I went to doctor's appointments, but I stayed inside also for those 30 days for the most part. I didn't go out recreationally.
Right.
Because the idea of wind outside, and it was a strangely cold month for being in the spring, late spring. So we kind of stayed in, and at that point, our heat had been turned off, and it was just weird. But we made sure to stay bundled up and stayed inside, and we didn't go to the grocery store where the air. I went one time because I had to, but I didn't go every week as I normally would with all that cold air and stuff. And babies kind of in that state too, right? They're not that far apart from you. So how you're treating yourself should be also how you're treating your baby. So, my mom was obsessed with wrapping her up in blankets and making sure her head was, it was there was more blankets than babies most days.
Yes. That's definitely multicultural.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so did you feel, because you were born in America and you were an American girl and an American young woman, did you feel though was it hard for you to shut down from your life and just do this, even though you knew it in your heart, this, and your plan had been, this is the right way to do it? Was there a struggle inside of you of having to maintain this way of life for this period of time?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The struggle for me was before. So when I was still pregnant and able to do a lot of different things, and my husband and I would, still go out and we'd go, do our errands together and stuff like that. It was hard for me to imagine that and to kind of commit to it, because it's very abnormal to me to be still and to not do anything. But once I was in it, it wasn't hard. Okay. It was really the mental preparation, because as you are pregnant, you're also sharing your plans possibly with other people who think you're crazy for doing what you want to do.
Right.
And so, yeah, right. And so there's this little bit of external pressure and this expectation that, mom should be able to bounce back and do what they need to do.
Blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Boo.
Question. Did she have her mother come and care for her in this way after she had you?
Yeah. No. So my mom's mother died in this weird accident in China. Got kind of buried alive when my mom was 5.
Oh.
So yeah. So my mom's so it's interesting how she mothers. It just has played a role in how she mothers me, but no, she didn't, and so she lived. And also, even if her mother was alive at that point, her mother would have been in China, when she had me here,
right?
So, and my grandmother, who we lived with, she was taking care of my aunt who had a C-section, because my cousin was born a little bit before me, so her time was really divided.
Got it.
So my mom had to do a lot of stuff herself.
So your mom didn't get this experience, but was willing to help you have this experience.
Yes, because
that's beautiful.
Even though she had to go back to work a week or two later, she didn't wash her hair for 30 days and did everything she could to kind of practice it or observe it as much as possible.
Right. So you had about 6 weeks or a month to 6 weeks of this kind of really concentrated time on just being a person who was recovering from childbirth, who was now in the full-on role of being a mother and having to adjust to mothering and your new baby and your baby having to adjust. And then you had an outside job, so you were needing to go back to work, I'm assuming, after a certain period of time, which I think you told us was about 6 weeks. Is that correct?
It was 12 weeks.
12
I was really
weeks.
lucky that
12 weeks.
Good.
Okay. So how long did you do this lying in, and when did your mom depart and you kind of go back into your life, whether it was full on or just, more active, being more grocery store, more out there in the world?
Yeah. So she stayed for the 30 days, so about a little over 4 weeks. Peter around 5, and then she left, and then she kind of came back for another week to take care of us.
Nice.
And then she left. So it was really around six or more weeks.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I went to my I went to my 6-week appointment alone, but I think I went to it alone. And then I did, because I couldn't figure out how to use the stroller, and I was Googling it. Because I hadn't been out at all.
Brought you back into present day modern America.
Yeah, right back to, let me Google this and see how I do. I love it.
This damn stroller.
Yeah. And so then, Lisa, you'd have... I want to talk about, before we run out of time, because your story, I feel like I wish you were here in the room with us, because I really would love just to keep talking, because I'm sure we're uncovering little stories also. Like, I want to know more about your grandmother who died, and I want to know more about your mother's life, and I want to know about...
I know.
But we don't have time for that. That'll have to be you'll have to write a book. But you have created something called the Fourth Trimester Summit, and I want to give you some time to talk about that, please.
Yes. Okay. So given my postpartum experience, I found once I emerged into the real world that was a real privilege for me to experience that. And I fully believe that it sets a foundation for parenthood, and that we as women are shorted that experience because of the lack of emphasis on it, because of the societal expectations that we have to be, bouncing back, that we have to be in pre-pregnancy genes right away, that we need to be working out. I mean, just
and that you don't need help.
Standards.
That you don't need the help, that you can do it on your own. I think this really brings in the whole it takes a village, the fact that, so many years ago, it was the whole family, the many different layers of family helping to raise the babies, which is just well-rounded, period.
Right. But I do think you're right. You were privileged in this, and this is the sad part, is that, like you said, your mom had to go back to work 1 week or 2 weeks later. That is the national average here in this country, is that the overwhelming majority of those who have a baby have to go back about 2 weeks after they've given birth. Not even the 6 weeks that we think exists. It's 2 weeks. So go ahead. You were telling us, you're going to tell us about the summit.
And so I feel that's really important to take care of mothers for so many reasons. I mean, just the health of the mom alone, to give them that, that time to kind of adjust into motherhood, to heal from that crazy natural, or maybe perhaps operation that happened to them. And also, the health of the mother impacts the rest of the family. And so it's not that we're just, when you take care of a woman, you're not just, and a mom, you're not just taking care of her, you're taking care of the generations after her, and you're taking care of the people that she's touching.
Isn't that novel to think that way? I mean, that's like the Native American of thinking 7 generations. For every decision we make, we have to think of the 7 generations. So if you're taking care of the person who just gave birth, you're taking care of not only them, but you're taking care of their child, their family, and for all the children to come and all the families ahead. So that's really very profound to me.
Yes.
Thank you. And I think that, and imagine how different and how much more beautiful the world it would be if we thought of that.
No kidding.
But
which also brings us back
like
to
that.
what we started talking about and thinking about just your life while being pregnant and being intentional with feelings, and it's all full circle for sure.
Exactly. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And I had another business idea for something completely unrelated. And so I thought, I'll create a summit. And so I purchased a course to create it. And I kind of went through I financially invested in it. I was like, it's going to be great. I had this business idea. I'll go with it. And then I took a step back because something that, I didn't touch on was just starting when I had my daughter. I kind of went on this self-identity journey because I didn't know who I was. And I think a lot of moms can probably relate to that.
Yes.
And so during that time, I figured out who I am and what I want to do and how I want to live and practice my life. And so I thought, well, I asked myself, if I didn't make a dime off of the summit, would I still do it? And I said, heck no. More expletives than that. But I just no, I would never do that. And so I took a step back and I said, well, if I had to do anything, because I'm financially invested in this now, if I had to do anything and I made nothing in return, what would I do? And it immediately went to moms and then specifically to the fourth trimester, because I feel it's not talked about enough. And it has a tremendous impact in the long term. And I'm all about, kind of getting to the core. So what's the cause of that? What's the cause of that? And how can we prevent that? And so much of the issues that we have can be placed to, that time period. And maybe not that time period, but the stress that moms and parents feel during that time can impact the relationship with their child, which has longer term impacts. And so, this is a very much a bigger vision of it, but that's how important I feel it is.
I see.
To look at this time period.
I respect that.
I'm so glad someone is.
Thank you. And so the summit itself, so it's November 9th to the 18th. It's online and it's free during that time period. I've interviewed 43 speakers who are covering all different types of topics, but I have it split into 3 pillars. I have healing the body and the mind for the mom, connecting and nurturing with the baby, and evolving and growing relationships. And that's the relationship with yourself, with your partner, and with your village. And so it's very much a holistic approach to the fourth trimester. And my goal is that women and families take away from it what they need. So, I don't want anyone to try to do it all, because it's not possible when we don't have enough support in our society to do that. But pick and choose what you want to focus on, whether it's nutrition or breastfeeding or connecting with your child or working with your partner, whatever it is, figure it out, prioritize those sessions with those speakers, and then go. And you can do it for free during that time. And I'm just so excited because I have this stellar lineup of speakers, and I've also got some awesome sponsors who will be sharing, different things in our virtual goodie bag that everyone who signs up for the email list will get. And everyone will also get a workbook where they can take notes during the summit. But also there's just different areas of mapping out how you want your fourth trimester to go. So basically what I want is that this be the place you go to inform your fourth trimester strategy. So you can pull all of your notes together and say, what's most important to me? And then kind of as you would create a birth plan, you can create a strategy for your fourth trimester, and that's there for you.
I love this.
I do too. It is amazing what you are offering. It is amazing how thoughtful it is. It's amazing that it is free. Though I do know that you can, and we're going to give people a link in a moment, you can support this financially also and benefit from that over and above. But that the fact that you can just offer it to everyone for free is amazing. And that it's online so that people don't have to travel anywhere to go. They can do this. And I love the idea that you are offering all these different aspects, but without the pressure that, oh my God, you've got to do all of these things.
Yeah, the pick and choose is really nice.
I really heard you say that, because nobody needs more pressure. And this is a beginning, or an affirmation, or an inspiration, or a continuation of what somebody already probably is feeling. So we really want tell people, we really want to help you put this out there, Lisa. So tell us like a link, a website that they can find out more information about how to sign up for it and what's involved. Sure.
So it's really simple. It's fourthtrimestersummit.com. So fourth is spelled out FOURTH, and then trimester summit.
Great.
And there you just have to enter your email in there, and then you would receive the workbook and the virtual goodie bag. If you sign up earlier, you might get some extra emails from me, and then during the summit itself, there will be daily emails with, what's going on that day. There's going to be 4 to 5 videos live each day and they'll be live for 48 hours. So you'll have 2 days to view the videos. And then one of our sponsors is Yoga Today. So there's a couple of yoga classes kind of like integrated into the sessions.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So I'm just really excited that, I have a lot of support from various businesses and people who are aligning with this mission. And so I really feel honored that that's the case. And I also really appreciate your having me on, allowing me to share some parts of my story that I don't think I've ever shared in a public forum before. Actually, I definitely haven't shared in a public forum.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we certainly do. That you, one, contacted us and let us know about what you were doing, sharing what you have about your history, about your journey, because really what you were on is a really a powerful, what do we call it? Well, it's a powerful spiritual undertaking besides the physical, but you really, you went on a quest. And you have come out, and you're sharing the results of that quest yourself with others, which will just further your quest, I know, as well, and your knowledge. Is there anything else you feel, because, boy, we've talked, which has been awesome. We've interrupted you, which we told you we were going to do. Is there anything that you feel you want to say that we didn't get a chance to really delve into or touched, but you didn't get really the time to say?
Oh gosh, there's so much.
Yeah, well, I assume that.
I have this group on Facebook. It's called the Supermoms Village, and my take is that everyone is a supermom.
Yes.
That there is no one person who has a cape and one person who doesn't. It's either we all have one or we don't have one. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Right. I feel that no matter how we approach motherhood, we approach it with kindness to ourselves as well as to other mothers, because everyone's doing the best they can with the knowledge and resources that they have. And that goes to yourself too. If you didn't have the ideal birth experience and you feel badly about it, did you have were you working to the best of your knowledge with the knowledge and resources that you had? And the chances are you were. And so,
right.
It's giving ourselves the slack and giving ourselves the patience and kindness that we would give to our children or to our best friends,
right?
Our sisters. And so I just feel there's too much of, oh, well, I wish I did this, or I'm not good enough at this, or I'm a bad mom, or whatever it may be. And there's, part of the workbook, there will be a Supermom Manifesto, which is a lot of kind of core tenets to how I want to be as a mom. And one that is one of the key ones is just, that we are all working with the best of our abilities with the knowledge and resources that we have. So I guess that's great. If I were to take one takeaway, I guess that would be it.
Well, thank you. I think that's a beautiful one. I think it's really important, and it goes back to what we talk about during workshops also, which is, hindsight is 20/20. We learn things later and we go, oh my God, if I had only known, or oh my God, I screwed up, or I didn't do. But at the time you made the decision, you made an informed decision. You had information. And later you may find out that there was more. There were different options. There were different possibilities for choices. But don't disempower yourself by beating yourself up. You made the decision. Now what are you going to do if you have another opportunity to, with new information? Because if it's not for you, it's for other people. So what you're giving in this conference and by just this conversation is giving people the opportunity to see that there are other things, and here, let me help you see what those are, and then you make your choice. So,
and we support you no matter what.
Yes, and that I think your other really big message there, which I cannot stress more and more and more, is be nice to each other. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of the base. Be nice to each other. Suspend judgment on others and yourself, and just hear their stories and be kind. And because I think we're all trying to do the best that we can. Mm-hmm. And being unkind to people and judgmental doesn't help someone feel better. Period. Nope. So thank you so much, Lisa, for taking this time, and we would love to have you back in the future to talk more. And
we'd love to hear how the summit goes.
How the summit goes. And for those of you who are listening, please know we're going to have resources up that Lisa's going to share with us. And please take time to just put in your email and get a part of this, because if it's not for you, it's for the other people that you're working with, this could be such a benefit. So spread it around. And Lisa, take care of yourself. I hope you practice still in your life the fourth trimester, because it's ongoing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
We'll talk again.
Take care.
Bye now.